As for my knowledge of hoodoo, in my childhood, I didn't even know to call it hoodoo until I was in my early 20s. Up until then, it was just life in the country. Little signs, remedies, and sayings that lived in our family were like second nature. Nobody sat me down and said, "This is hoodoo." It was just the way that people survived. I remember when one of my aunts told me a story about my grandfather, and that was when I realized just how close hoodoo has always been. She told me he wasn't really a good man. He played the guitar in church on Sundays, but outside of that, he worked roots. The story she told me was that he once put roots on my grandmother, and it backfired on him. And they say that he ended up walking naked through the streets until he was taken to a crazy home. Whether every detail of that story is true or not, I don't know. The fact is that it was remembered and passed down. It shows that hoodoo was always there, hidden in the background, and that people carried both fear and respect for it. My aunt also told me some other things that he did, but they're too horrific that I will not repeat them here in this video. But the whispers of those stories shaped how people in our community thought about root work. Nobody passed down the healing stories. Nobody told the good that hoodoo brought to people's lives. What was remembered was what was whispered, where stories like my grandfather's, stories of misuse, harm, of backfires, that is the part of hoodoo that people remember. And that is the part of the reason why hoodoo has such a bad reputation in Arkansas. People only spread tales of the ones who did wrong. They only remember the frightening parts, the punishments, the curses, the backlashes. Not once growing up did I hear anybody say anything good about what we now call hoodoo. It was only talked about in warnings and hushed tones as something you shouldn't touch. At least that's what I grew up hearing. And yet, even in those warnings, you can still see the truth. If it wasn't powerful, people wouldn't have anything to fear. The silence, the fear, and the reputation were all part of how hoodoo survived here. Never gone, just remembered in fragments, passed through cautionary tales, waiting for someone to name it for what it really was. And part of the reason why Arkansas hoodoo looks so different is because we live in the Bible Belt. That means conservative Christianity has always been dominant voice here. In many towns, the church was the center of community life. Baptisms were done